Welcome back to the Better Everyday Podcast, where we're unlocking our best selves one episode at a time. My name is Grace Garcia, and this is my wonderful husband, David Garcia.
Hello.
And I'm told this is our 39th episode of 2024. This is going to be our last and final episode of this year.
Mm-hmm.
We are taking a nice, deserved break.
Yes.
David over here has been super duper consistent filming this every single week and editing it for you guys and putting it up there. So if you guys can show him love, I truly appreciate that you do all of this work for the Better Everyday Podcast, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you, babe.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I know, as cliche as it sounds, and David hates cliches. He is like against mainstream, hates cliches, that kind of guy. But I thought, you know what? No, let's talk about it, because this podcast is called the Better Everyday Podcast. And I think everyone's goal and their vision in this season, they start really thinking about it. I think everyone starts getting on the same page of how can we be better next year? Mm-hmm. Everyone has that thought. I hope no one's thinking of like, no, I want to get worse or stay the same. Like, something is in us about a new fresh start, a new year, and we get excited. And I personally love talking my dreams and my goals with you. I feel like you make it seem doable. You take things that seem challenging and make it bite-sized and make it where it's like, oh, like I can do this. I have hope. And you're someone who has put goals in your life and accomplished them. And even, again, where we try to be as transparent on this podcast, but even goals like we didn't hit, mm-hmm. be real about that so that people can experience and kind of know what that looks like. What happens if we don't achieve a goal? Do we feel guilt? How do we get over it? How do we get up again to try? So that's what I want this episode to be about.
Okay.
About goals. Let's talk about goals. So, first off, let's do a little bit of reflection. How do you think you did at the goals that you set yourself in 2023? How do you think you did now ending 2024?
So before you talk and ask that and I answer, I think first and foremost, I wonder if anybody's wondering if you're trying to look like Mrs. Claus with that thing that you're wearing. I looked at you right now and I'm like,
I look funny.
You look, if it was red, yeah, you would straight up try to be.
So I am wearing, I don't know if it's a Snuggie. It's like a robe, but it's like backwards. You put it on like this. You put your hands through, like a blanket robe. And it heats my feet. And I don't know if you guys can tell if you're watching me on YouTube, but this thing at the bottom of my feet massages and heats up. So I am feeling spoiled right here.
Is it just your feet that heats up? Not the rest of the blanket?
No, it's just the feet.
Oh, okay.
And that massages and heats up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm ending the last episode spoiled.
That's pretty cool. Sorry. So what was your question again?
You were so into like what I look like.
Yeah, because I saw you on the TV and then I'm like, yeah, she kind of looks like a gray version of Mrs. Claus.
That's funny. I was saying, so in 2023, mm-hmm. you said, okay, these are the goals I want to accomplish for 2024.
That was last year.
Mm-hmm. So now reflecting now that the year has come to an end, how do you feel like you did? Are
you
mostly proud of yourself?
Let me just clarify, because my wife sometimes says things funny. What you mean is the goals that we set, because usually what we do is on December 31st.
Yeah.
What I do is a net worth calculator. So if you don't know what that is basically taking all of your assets. So whatever's in your bank account, your savings account, your retirement account, your investment account, your kids account, whatever money that if like the end of the world came or you and your wife lost your jobs, whatever, and you had to pull every single dollar possible, what would that look like? And then you take all that, you add it all up, and then you minus your credit cards, you minus any loans that you have, you minus anything that you owe your tia or your tío, you minus what else? Student loans, just anything that you owe, which is basically a liability. You minus it, and then whatever comes out, it might be a positive number, it might be a negative number. If you're in the positive, great, that's awesome. If you're in the negative, don't worry, you're not alone. There's a lot of Americans that are in the negative of net worth. But basically what we do is we do that. And then after we do that, we kind of like sit together and we're like, hey, this is what our year looks like. This is what last year looked like. This is how we've improved, or this is how we've kind of like slowed down a little bit, or here's where we improve and stuff. And the last couple of years, I've took it to the next level where I excel everything. So if we were ever like, where did the money go? It's like, I know exactly where it went. I have all the categories broken down, miscellaneous, all the bills, the money that goes into your pocket, the money that goes into my pocket, the kids, anything. Where our money goes the most that it shouldn't be going to is usually like the eating out. And so now it's like no surprise. Where'd the money go? Oh, it went in our bellies, you know? And after we do that, we go, all right, in 2024, this is what we did on December 31st, 2023. And this is why my wife says the goals of 2023, but really they are the goals of 2024. And that's why we're talking about them today. So that's why I asked, like, is it last year or this year?
No, but I'm saying the goals you set for yourself in 2023 for 2024.
Yes.
Yeah, but not like just money goals, like just your goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So me and you sit down, and at first, when we first did it, it was kind of just general. But then we started breaking it down into physical goals, spiritual goals, emotional goals, family goals, ministry goals. Like we broke it down. And so I could pull it up, but if I remember correctly, our lists were pretty big. And I mean, me personally, I don't know if I hit even 50% of them.
But how do you feel if you, let's say you're pretty accurate and fell a little under 50, which I think you're too hard on yourself, but let's say you're right. How do you feel? Do you feel, is there some like shame, guilt, regret? Is there, okay, whatever it is, what it is, let's move forward? Like, where is your mindset at?
Okay, so the way that I see it, I look at the goals, and here's my problem. And this is something that I want to change for sure next year, is I have these goals that I'm like, this is what I actually want to do. But my problem is that I don't do enough check-ins. So I might check it halfway through the year, and I'll be like, okay, like this is, I'm kind of like not even doing this goal or whatever.
Yeah.
And what I should be doing is at least once a month looking at it. Because the thing is, if I only check it only once a year, come the end of the year, I go, oh man, like forgot about this one. Oh man, I didn't do that one. It's like, had I been on top of it, like at least once a month, it's like, okay, like I can now be more like on it. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's, I was talking to this person that I'm kind of doing like accountability with. And I told this person, what your goal is, check it every single day. That way you can hold yourself accountable. That check-in every single day is either going to tell you, are you going in the right direction? Are you going in the wrong direction? Or are you just not moving? Yeah. Right. And that's something that I should be doing more consistently with the goals that I've been setting for, the following year. And that's something that I definitely, because the reason why I said it is because December 31st is around the corner. I'm going to look at this list and I'm going to go, oh man, like I forgot about that one. Oh man, like I didn't do that one. And in part, it does make me feel like a little bit bad, but it's my own fault, right? So if I was on top of it more, I'm sure that I would do something about it, right? It's just because, you kind of like turn your back on it. And it's just like, oh, like, you kind of forget about it, The other thing that kind of like shifted us this year is at the beginning of the year that we read that Atomic Habits. Yeah. And that shifted us a good amount. Granted, usually when something really impacts us, we usually get very emotional about it. And I'm sure you guys are the same way. Like, oh, right now I'm on the health kick, you know, like I'm going to start working out. Or right now I'm on the reading my Bible every single day. Or, oh, right now I'm in the praying 3 times a day and doing a fasting and blah, 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 blah. Like at the first, like the moment that you cross that line of I'm going to do it, there's like this hype about it. But like, this is like the difference between like a champion mindset, I'd say, and like just a regular mindset is, are you going to keep it going past the 1 month mark, the 2 month mark, right? And that's something that me and you have, you know, talked about many times. Because I'd say like, you know, I kind of call you sometimes an emotional roller coaster because you're like, I'm going to do this right now. And I'm like, all right, like, let's see if it withstands the test of the 1 month mark, the 2 month mark, you know, like I feel like once it passes like the 2-3 month mark, it's like, okay, it's part of who you are. Right. And so, that being said, when we did Atomic Habits, I made some drastic changes and I really tried. Like for one of mine was almost eliminate any watching of like series or movies or whatever. And I started off like, okay, every break I'm going to read books, and I would do it. But it's just like exactly what I tell this person that I'm doing this accountability with. I'm like, you've been giving your body and your mind this certain thing over and over again. And it like does something, like there's chemicals in your brain that release when you eat certain foods, when you watch certain things, right? And so if you do that for many years, it's not like from one day to another, you're just gonna, oh, I'm gonna break that habit, you know?
Yeah.
And so like I tried, but then like I just noticed like my brain was just like, no, give me like at least watch something. I don't know why, but it's just my body was like, watch something. And so I was telling you, oh, I'm starting to watch biographies. I'm starting to learn how people live. And, you know, like I was watching all these biographies of like people that have achieved great things. And I'm like, okay, that'll inspire me. It'll also show me where, you know, they might have had mishaps or missteps or whatever. And then little by little, I just started like, I started going through all the biographies or autobiographies and stuff. And I'm just like, then I landed back on shows and it's just like, oh man, like, but I will say I read more books than I have read any other year, but I do want to get better, but it's definitely not easy. And I feel like we talked about it when we first talked about Atomic Habits. Like it might be a book that we read every January that we might have to read just to like realign us again, you know, because it's very beneficial, like everything that book says. But yeah, so basically what we do is we reflect on the goals, see where we did good, where we did bad. And I think we both do it where we're like, oh man, I forgot about that. Like, oh, and sometimes you'll go like, oh, David, you didn't do this, you know, or sometimes you suggest like what goals I should do next year. But yeah, and then the times where I see that I did, like let's say this year I set that I was going to do like only 3 races and I ended up doing like 5 races.
Yeah.
I said I wanted to do 250 miles of running and I'm at like 350 something or whatever miles of running. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's for me pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment.
So there's things, you know, but one thing for sure, and this is something I'd be talking to the audience about as well, is something that I've been learning is a lot of us tend to do things so other people notice, and we want the affirmations from those people, and we get our self-worth from that. And one thing that I've been learning about myself is that I also do that, where I thought I wasn't that person, but learning more and more about myself, I'm just like, oh, like I am that person. And so the therapist that I've been seeing is like, you need to start practicing not saying nothing and just keeping it to yourself. And you look yourself in the mirror and give yourself the affirmation that you're looking for other people to give you. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That is hard. And I think for a lot of us, and I guess I'm going on a tangent, but for a lot of us, we might have grown up not thinking too great of ourselves. And when you don't really like yourself, you kind of throw on masks and you try on different masks and see which ones are socially acceptable, which ones are socially praised. And when you get the socially praised, you're like, oh, that mask works, you know? But at the end of the day, you're not really being you. You're just being a different version of you. And I've kind of described myself as a chameleon sometimes because I'm just like, I'll just shift to whatever my surrounding needs or wants or whatever, right? And so, and it all comes from that wanting people to accept me and to validate me and to, you know, like give me that self-worth or whatever. And so me saying that is when you set out these goals, make sure that these goals are for you. And if you do resonate with what I just said, do the goals and don't tell anybody about them. Don't tell anybody about them. Keep them to yourself. And when you reach the goals, again, don't tell anybody about them.
Yeah.
But have those moments of you giving yourself praise. Because we might have grown up not liking the real versions of ourselves, that it is hard for us to look ourselves in the mirror and be like, you did a great job. I am proud of you. It's hard and it feels fake and it's like, I never got it from my parents or whatever, or I never got it growing up, or I always felt like I had to be a different version of myself. And so it's hard, but it's something that we have to learn, because that's the one thing that I kind of see in regards to like self-love. Like I've never been really big on like self-love and like you look out for number one.
Yeah.
But in this regard, there's some times where, and it's not about I got to look out for number one, but it's about I need to learn how to love myself. Because if I don't love myself, I'm going to continuously fish in different seas to get my self-worth. And if I continuously do that, eventually the fish are going to run out and you get into a dark spot where you're just like, all right, this isn't working. So whatever goals you set, make sure that they're for yourself. It's not to flaunt to others. It's not to, hey guys, check this out. I reached 1,000 miles. Or hey guys, check this out. I have $1 million. Like, hey guys, I have 1 million followers on Instagram. Like whatever it is that your goal is, make sure that it's for you. And make sure that it's aligned with God.
Yeah.
That's another great thing.
That is. But what if us sharing our goals or our journey or even our testimony, like our praise report, can inspire others? Like and I think that's like the line I always find blurred, because sometimes I get so excited and I have to catch myself. Like, is it an emotional kind of, I guess it goes to intent, right? Like, am I sharing this just to get the praise? Am I sharing this? And sometimes I don't know. So I'm like, David, should I post this? And you kind of say, well, why do you want to post it? And I'm like, oh, because I'm excited, or because I think it can help people, or whatever that reason is. And, you know, I'm getting told like by people around me, like, no, like share your story. Like it's important. Like it's motivational, you know? Sometimes it can feel awkward, or there's people on the opposite. They never want to share their story. And it's like, go, like God is using you as an example for others. So what's that fine
I think
line?
It's not really a line. I think both things exist on both sides of the coin. And what I'm saying is you could be doing it to get self-worth, but it can also be a testimony, right? You saying like, I used to have my budget for Christmas, let's say it used to be 0 and now it's X amount. Like that's God doing such a great thing. And to have people be like, oh my gosh, like what a great story. How did you do it? You did everything right. Like, there's a possibility that you could be tapping into like, this is, oh yeah. Like I'm getting my self-worth. Like,
Yeah.
But people could also be like, oh my gosh, I'm there right now. I'm where I don't have a budget for Christmas. I'm where I'm struggling to give my kids presents for Christmas. And I feel this guilt and all this stuff. And I want to be where you are. Right. Like that's a testimony, but at the same time, like, and that's why I always ask you, and now I need to continuously ask myself too. It's just like, why do I feel the need to send this text? Because usually I'm not one to put it on Instagram. And that's why I was kind of like on a high horse. Like, oh, like all these people on Instagram, like, you know, they just want people to notice them and blah, blah, blah. I don't do that. But what I do is I send text messages to my friends and look at what I did today. And it's basically the same thing. It's just a different version, right?
Yeah.
And so I need to continuously ask myself, like, why am I doing this? Right. And you can always, like, again, you've been practicing something that your body and your mind, your spirit, I would say your body and your mind really, really want, right? You sending something, people giving praise, the dopamine or whatever other chemicals are in your brain, they do release. Mm-hmm. There's a happy juice that gets released in your brain. And so your brain goes, do that again. And so you strive to do something, you send it out again and you get the praise and boom, you get another shot. It's like a drug, right? And so, yeah, like there's a little bit of a danger to that. And it's my thing would be, if you didn't send it, if you didn't post it on Instagram, if you didn't post it on TikTok, if you didn't send it to your friends, how would your heart and mind be? Would they be at peace? Because if they're not at peace, why are they not at peace?
Yeah.
And I could at least identify in myself a lot of times, like, I'm like, I have to send it. And that, if I were to ask myself why, well, I want my friends to see what I did. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you can justify it and be like, I want to inspire other people. But at the same time, you also want people to be like, oh, you did that? That's so amazing. I could never do that. I wish I could do that. And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah. So it's something that some of us need to learn. And I'm talking about me. Like, I need to learn to be able to give myself praise. And if I can't give myself praise before I go looking for it somewhere else, then I shouldn't be looking for it somewhere else. Because it goes back to, there's that Bible verse that says, we store things up here on earth, but like the moths can get to it. Like, basically, the paraphrase is, like, everything on earth can be gone in a second. Mm. All that love that you got from people, gone in a second. All that fame from people, gone in a second. All that money that you made, gone in a second. 1 second can change everything, and you have nothing. And when you have nothing, who are you? That's really the question.
Yeah, that's good. And do you think, like, how would you go about it if you were to advise someone who maybe they're watching and they're like, oh, they're getting excited about the new year resolutions, wanting to sit down and hash out their plan, how you're mentioning that we do December 31st. Do you say, like, write down everything you can possibly think of? Do you say, okay, be realistic? What most likely can you change? How would you kind of like coach or walk through someone who's wants to take this serious?
I don't think there's a one cookie cutter fits all. And the reason why I said that is there's some people where I would say dream big, like put big goals. Let the goals scare you, because that's what's going to drive them, right? But there's some people where you can tell the same thing, and if they don't reach that goal, their whole world comes crashing down. They're like, I set the goal way too big. I didn't reach it, and they start beating themselves up.
Yeah.
Those people, you want to tell them, like, hey, set yourself like a little more realistic goal. Push the limit a little bit, but not so much where you're not going to be able to make it and you're going to beat yourself up. Mm-hmm. Like, it really depends. And then, but usually what I do, and that's really all I could say is, I would put priorities. So my priorities is family. How can I be a better father? How can I be a better husband? My priority is physical. So how can I be a healthier version? I want to be around long for my family. I want to be able to live long enough to do ministry. And that's another priority of mine. Like, how do I get healthy to be able to do ministry? And obviously, internal health as well is very important. And I'm talking about, I've been open about it. I'm doing therapy and stuff. Like, I want to get to the point where I'm at a healthy place where I can be a healthy husband, a healthy father, a healthy person in ministry, just a healthy person in general, right? And so I would say put your priorities first, because if you put priorities, it's like, okay, you'll knock off number 1 through 5, let's say. And maybe number 15 and 16, 17, 18, they don't get done. But though they were at the bottom of your priority list, right? If you get to them, awesome. That's amazing. And if you don't, it's like, okay, you got like the top 10, top 15 or whatever done. And that's a great accomplishment, and maybe you reaching out, beyond, let's say, like your limits is that, like, instead of 10 priorities this year, I'm going to put 15, and I won't feel bad if I don't reach the last 5, but if I can, I will strive to finish those last 5. Right. But with some people, it might be, hey, I want to bring in $250,000 of income this year. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And that's a great motivator too, because it's like, okay, I only make X amount right now and I have to get a 250.
Yeah.
Now I'm motivated to hustle. I'm going to make it happen. Especially like for you, I would do something like that. Like set a goal like that, because for you, you're thinking the whole time, like you just need one person to know, and you go, I have to. They know, and I have to do it so I can say that I did it. Like,
but you said don't tell anyone.
Yeah, but I mean between me and you, obviously, right? But like, yeah, you're just driven by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say set your priorities. First, I would say set your priorities of what's important to you, and like overview, right? Spiritual, physical, mental, financial, family, husband, spouse, whatever. Like, put your priorities like that, and then from there go, okay. And if being a husband is my top priority, okay, what do I need to do to be a better husband? And let's say for me, specifics would be do even more words of affirmation. I've been trying to progress, right? So do it instead of just once a day. Do it 5 times a day, do it 10 times a day, whatever it is, like, to where it's just almost like a symphony of affirmations in this house for you.
Waiting.
Is a father being able to, now that the kids are getting older and they're starting to understand more, teaching them about the Bible, teaching them stories, teaching them how those Bible stories relate to our lives now, teaching them how to ride a bike, teaching them how to spell, how to do math, like all those things, right? Like, that for me is fulfilling. That's a top priority for me. Like, I want to be able to, when I pass away, know that I did the best possible job as a father to leave my kids as prepared for life as possible.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm going off and off, but just set priorities, set your goals, be specific. And yeah, at the end of the year, if you don't reach them, it's okay. But a lesson that I've learned is, I need to be more on top of it. Once a month, check in, like, where am I at? How am I doing with my top 5? Have I finished them? Have I conquered them? All right. What's it look like for the next 5 or whatever? But yeah.
That's good. And I think either putting like an alarm on your calendar or like the reminder dates, or even emailing it to, how you can now email it in a certain time. You can email it to yourself like in a month from now, email it to yourself in 5 months from now.
Yeah.
And that way it's just coming in and you're just like, oh, like it popped up in my email box. Yeah. I honestly don't remember writing goals. I don't know if you have my list, because
yes, I do.
What I remember, I was like, 2023 was ending in such an amazing way. God definitely just like blew my expectations, that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to have many goals. I think I had like certain goals that I'm like, okay, for sure this. But when it came to specifics with like TikTok or what I wanted to achieve, I'm like, I'm just going to let God.
Do you want some?
I'm nervous.
Grace's goals for 2024. Wife who makes her husband feel loved, optimistic, prayer warrior, patient and loving mother, an organized person, good steward of finances, successful content creator, positive teacher, good friend, someone who people can trust, wise advisor and leader.
Those weren't the goals. Those were, we read we read Atomic Habits, and we said, list who you want to be. Yeah, baby. I remember there's one chapter that says like list everything you want to be known as, list who you want to be, and then we had to break it down and say how are we going to get there.
Okay, I'll tell you what you had for 2023. You had physical, be more active at least 3 times a week, finish 6-pack of Peaks.
I did not do that.
Spiritual, read Bible more, 4 book deep dives, pray during prep, and preach at RTLA. 1 solo date every other month. This is marriage. Dates usually consist of inviting others for double date. Use phrase, when this happens, more eyes, less use. Financial, spend only what is in budget. Stop asking for more than what is agreed upon.
I'm going to take that off.
General, maintain house. Establish nighttime routine. Stop ignoring and leaving people hanging, especially with texts. Be more patient with kids in general, including our kids and kids that are taught. Drink a minimum of 3 bottles daily of water. My weight times 0.5 gave me 52 ounces, which is roughly 3 bottles of water. Do not suggest.
Are we boring people now?
And call my dad more in Mercy at least once a month where I initiate call.
Shout out Mercy. I've not been doing that. I think though. Okay, so I did obviously put things down that I like wanted to achieve. But I think where my thought process was like, and what I was saying was 2023 ending. There was no way I could have imagined like where we were at with TikTok. We shared our testimony, like finances. I was just like, whoa, it wasn't planned. There was no strategy. Like this was God. And so I was like, I'm not even going to put a goal. And I didn't really put a goal of like, what me, Grace Garcia, like wants to achieve, I guess monetarily or even, I don't know, like I think I put like very general outlines. Cause yeah, I'm trying to find that balance of like, this is what I want to do, but like God, I know that I can't, like, you know my story and I know that I can't like understand like your perfect will for my life right now. And so this is the steps that I'm taking and kind of like do what you want. But I obviously think we need to have a goal. We can't just walk aimlessly and be like, oh, whatever happens, happens. Like faith is without action is dead. So if we want to be a healthy person, we take that action and then God will do the rest, right? Same thing with finances, same thing with our spiritual life. But yeah, there was a lot of things on the list that I totally forgot about.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't do like the monthly check-in or whatever, so you just kind of forget. And had you been holding yourself accountable, maybe you would have done more, right?
Yeah, but there's certain things because I was ending, and I guess we'll enter into like the vulnerable like part or like the transparency part. Because I was ending this year of like, meh. Like it started off awesome. And I'm like, it's definitely like taking and I'm super content like where I am in life, but I just feel like to show on paper, like for others. And I'm very, as a 3, like a people pleaser, like how you said, words of affirmation. What are people gonna think? But to be honest, like my heart is at peace. Like I'm at peace, but it was like, oh, it doesn't sound great. Like this is how I'm ending the year compared to like the beginning of the year, if that makes sense. But reading that list, I'm like, oh, one thing that 100% I think, and I even got an ornament we get one special ornament every single year to kind of say like what was our like main hobby or what kind of took our attention or just to find our year if we can in one ornament. It's very simple. Obviously an ornament can't say much, but this year I got a cross. I was trying to get like a journal or something and I couldn't find it. And that is something I'm super proud of because I'm like, I barely post that I read my Bible in the morning. I feel like I posted it here and there, but that I've been reading like consistently, like every single week, multiple times a week, like weekdays, most of the weekdays. Like that I'm proud of because I think that is part of me. Like that's going to enter. And now when I see what a successful morning looks like and feels like I think like I have to wake up early, I have to do that or else like I won't feel like I'm my best. And so there's that I'm proud of. The thing We entered like TikTok being at a full-time high in the end of 2023. Like just again, more than I even planned or imagined. Something's happened in the algorithm. I don't know. It's tanking everyone's like views, or at least mine, and sales. I feel peace. I'm like, God, I know I've seen his trends that I know like I have no worries that he has me. But it's like, should I put goals? Because I didn't put any goals for this year. And I'm like, maybe is that where I went wrong? Not having goals? Or would it still have had happened? Like, do you put specific goals and say, okay, God, then if you decide to deter, like, I'll let it go? Like, how do you handle that where you're just like, God, I want to trust this area to you? If that makes sense.
Are you talking about just you on TikTok, or like what are you talking about?
Or any goals that people are like let's say for a job, right? They want to go to another job and they're like, I don't really know what I want to do. Like, do I have a goal? Do I just let God do it? Because there's also some people I've heard that they're like, oh, I don't write down my goals because I just kind of like let God write my story. I'm going to do the best that I can, but I don't know what the future looks like. I don't know. Would you say no, like write them down at all times?
I wouldn't agree with that. No. I mean, even if it's general, you need goals. I need to learn more skills. You want a better job? Learn more skills. That's how you get a better job.
Yeah.
You want to be better at TikTok? You can't. There's things that you can control and things that you cannot control.
Yeah.
So with TikTok, you cannot control how much they're going to pay you. But what you can control is I'm going to be consistent and I want to post 3 times every single day, no matter what. That you can control. And that's where you're like, God, I'm going to do my part 3 times a day. Then whatever money comes my way, that's you being like, this is what is meant for me.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, with the job, I want another job. I don't know what it is, but what I can do is learn more skills. That way, when I do figure out, or I get some sort of direction from God or whatever, like I'm going to be qualified to do that job because I have more skills. The more skills, if you guys didn't know, the more skills that you have, the more valuable you are to any single company. To any single company. The more that you can help them, the better it is for them.
Yeah.
And the more likely it is that you will be attractive to them and that they'll hire you. I think in anything, discipline goes around on every single goal. Consistency, every goal. Like there's things that you should be looking to achieve every single year. Being more disciplined, being more organized, learning more skills, like all those things could benefit your life greatly. And it always goes back to God's going to call you to places, and it's your responsibility to prepare to be the right person for when he calls you. I think God knows what he placed in every single one of us. And from what he placed, he goes, this is what's meant for you. The door is open. The timing we don't know. Because he can call you, but you don't know at what point he's actually going to place you there, right? But what are you doing to prepare yourself to be in the best possible position for when you are placed where God is calling you? If you're just twiddling your thumbs, you're not going to do a very good job. If you're putting in work, if you're learning, if you're growing your characteristics, if you're expanding your maturity, if you're expanding your knowledge, like, yeah, you're going to kill it. That's showing that it's important to you. That's showing that you want to do the best thing possible. Like, you want to be better every single day. That's the whole point of what we talk about every single time. And so, yeah, I don't agree with those people like, I'm not going to write anything down. Like, whatever happens next year. Like, okay, well, don't be upset when you don't get what you want.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like people are like flipping a coin. Like, oh, let's see what happens this year. Like,
Yeah.
but I think the more that you prepare yourself, the more that you set goals and achieve them, the likely you're going from like 1 in a million chances to 1 in 100 chances. Like the probabilities start growing as you start putting in the work.
Yeah. So would you say, because you were saying at least you might not know where you're heading or where you're going, but say, okay, I'm getting more skill. And so maybe like, for example, when it came to us, right? Not say like, let's buy a house in 2025, but let's be good stewards and whatever God has, because we don't know if he's going to test us with our finances, if he will bless us the house, but it's who do we want to be? Because the reality is that the Bible does tell us what kind of people we should be, what kind of discipline we should have.
Right.
And it's in every aspect of our life, right? Like what we should be eating, that we should be good stewards of our money, that we should love our neighbors. And so that's how we started. That's what Atomic Habit says. That's why that my list of like, be a good wife, a loving wife, be someone that people can come to me for advice, things like that. It's like, so when you have that in mind and you're working towards that will never be wrong, working towards those things. But when the year hits and you're like, oh, I didn't get the house that I wanted, or oh, I didn't get the promotion. I feel like some people's minds, or maybe how our mind, depending on how you were raised, with what kind of teachers and parents and expectations. I know some of us, because that's kind of how my brain works. If I have like a number and I don't hit it, I'm like, I failed. I suck. I kind of start getting discouraged. I start saying that I wasn't enough. Maybe I'm not enough. I start doubting on myself. Versus if you have that mindset of I'm going to be a good steward, no matter what that season looks like. And then something happens and you're like, oh, I have to give my money for this. But I was a good steward of that.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that the car broke down, that there was an emergency with the house or whatever it was. And so it's not tied to your identity of like, I didn't fulfill this. That wasn't in the cards that God dealt me. God didn't call me there right now, but I am still who he wants me to be.
Yeah. And I think that's where me and you complement each other pretty well, because I remember at one point this year, it wasn't recent. It was like a couple months ago. You were like, oh, I'm down. Like, I'm not doing so well on TikTok and blah, blah. And that's what I love about myself, honestly.
You just hype yourself up.
If I could look at myself in the mirror, I'd be like, David, I am proud of you for being more organized with your finances and being more organized with your Excel sheets. Because when you said that, I had said, hold on, give me a second. I'm like, by this time last year, you only made X amount. And right now, you have made X amount more than you did last year. And I remember you being like, really? And I'm like, yeah, you're killing it. And by my Excel sheet calculations, it looks like by the end of the year, you're going to end off at this. And this is what you're bringing in on average every month. And last year, it was only this much. And you were like, oh. And that's exactly like what you're talking about right now. Like you in your head maybe had like this bigger goal and like, oh, you're beating yourself up because I didn't reach it. But then if you have somebody that's telling you, hey, but check out these numbers, like you've grown by, let's say 75%, 100%. Like in a business, that's unheard of. Usually the growth is like 20%, maybe even less, depending on what industry you're in. So like to hear like you've grown 75% year over year, it's just like, that's a positive, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about. There's only so much that we can do, and we cannot control the outside factors, right?
Yeah.
We can't control like that TikTok is going to get banned apparently soon. We can't control when my car is going to break down. We can't control that I bought another car and that I didn't know all the information, and now we had like extra costs and headaches on top of it, right? But exactly what you said. What we can control is how do we manage money? Are we practicing good money habits? Are we practicing good stewardship? Are we practicing wisdom? Are we practicing the knowledge that we've had? Are we practicing how to maximize the dollars that we make? Are we doing all these things? Yes. And where I correlate that is There's this guy on Instagram. I believe his Instagram is something like the Hard Knocks School or something like that. This guy goes around asking millionaires, "Hey, can I get a moment of your time?" Okay, yeah. And one question he always asks them is, "Have you ever been broke before?" And every single one of them go, "Yes, I have." And he goes, "How did you not let that discourage you?" And they all say the same thing. I know what it is to be broke, A. B, I know what it is to make money and then go broke. And I'll never worry because I have the characteristic, I have the discipline, I have the blah, 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 everything to list all these things. And they go, I could be broke and make that exact amount of money again because I know how to practice all those things, right? And so that's such like a perfect like way to see life is like as long as you practice those things, life, God might throw the curveballs at you and it might be a test of your character. How are you going to act during those times of stress?
Yeah.
How are you going to act when the storm is coming? How are you going to act in seasons of drought? How are you going to act through all these things? And are you going to still be able to practice all these things that you say that you can practice? And we'll see where it is, right? There's things that we can control and things that we can't. The things that we can't, we have to be okay with it and be like, I can only do what I can do. But what I can do, I've seen what God can do with what, these hands, this mind, my skills and all that stuff. I've seen what God can do. So I'm not going to lose faith. I know that this might be a bottom, but just like an investment graph, you'll see it slightly go up and then it'll go down and then it'll keep going back up and then it'll go down a little dip and then keep going up. That's just life. Yeah. Life is never going to be a nice straight line up. There's going to be so many curveballs and things that happen. But again, what characteristics have we been practicing? I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that's how you said important to have that like data or those anecdotes or those testimonies, because I've noticed it time and time again where we have been at a high family wise. I'm talking about like finances right now. And then it's a low and then we feel like, oh, we're getting back up again. And then it's a low. And recently, like with the car thing, you were stressed and I was like, this happened before. Like, we'll be fine. Like, there will be money. And it's around the holidays and you're stressed. And I'm like, money's going to come. And, one of my companies that I worked for got sued. I got in a little car accident. They had to pay me. Like, these things that are not blessings.
I feel like you're like, yeah. It's like a
God uses all for your good.
What is it called? Like an oxymoron, like something bad, something good. Like I got in a really bad car accident. It was awesome because we got money. Like, obviously you wouldn't want to be in a car accident.
No, but I'm saying like even the bad moments, like God does use it for his people, like for the people who love him, for the people who follow him. Like he's always going to bless us. He has our back. He's a good, loving father. And I'm like, seeing him as that. And even now where I'm like, okay, I have no idea. I'm not entering 2025 how I was entering 2024. Like 2024, I was like, oh my goodness, TikTok can just be like this huge like thing in our life, right? Now I'm like, it looks like it's going to get banned, right? Like it looks like something's going to, like the algorithm has already been changing, but I'm still like, I didn't expect TikTok to be a blessing how it is. So it could be TikTok. It could be something else. Like, I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be, but like, there's peace in my heart that we'll be fine, like with or without it. And it's a little like, not uncomfortable, but it's a little bit like, kind of like a not knowing. You get a little like, oh, I want to know, like this uncertainty, but it's not, for me at least, it's not a lack of faith. It's not a lack of, like, I'm not worrying. I'm not stressed about it, if that makes sense. And it feels good.
And I think also setting goals is kind of putting yourself to the test. And the reason why I say that is like, okay, so you set a goal of, I want to be consistent. I want to do X, Y, Z. And you reach the end of the year and you saw like, oh, I was consistent. And guess what? Now that's part of your identity, right? And the reason why I say that is because let's say TikTok gets banned, gone. TikTok's out of the game. And I know part of you is going to be like, oh man, like, what am I going to do? And blah, blah, blah. Now I could stand on firm ground, on firm freaking ground and be like, homegirl, before TikTok, I could not stand on firm ground and say you are a consistent person. You're a person that won't quit. You're a person, you know, whatever. But now I can stand on firm ground and be like, you are this person. Now, whatever it is that you put your mind to, you're going to be able to do and kill.
Thank you.
Right. And so you set that goal last year. I want to be, you put successful content creator. But with that, when we did Atomic Habits, you also said, and you put that goal, I want to post 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I want to do all these things, all the right things, all that I know that I've researched that set you up for success. And now you can stand on firm ground and be like, I am a planned person, an organized person, a person that can hustle, the person that could work around a schedule, around her teaching schedule, being a mother, being a wife, being all these things and still have a successful business. Like you could do all these things. And now all these characteristics you can put in any single industry and be successful at it. So long as you say, that's what I want to do.
Thank you.
So that's one of the purposes of putting goals as well, because you put yourself to the test and you see what you're made of. And when you see what you're made of, it's like now you are standing on firm ground. This is who you are.
I love that. Thank you. I don't know if you meant it as a compliment, but it means a lot to me.
Well, yeah, it's a compliment.
Thank you. And so I don't know how long we've been talking, but let's start wrapping up. Do you have any specific goals entering into 2025 that you'd like to share with them? Maybe a little accountability. Are you going to keep some for yourself? Because you're like, now I'm not wanting to get that affirmation that you were talking about earlier. What?
Well, I can say the goals and nobody will know if I got there or not, you know? I mean, my goals, I think throughout the more general ones will always kind of be the same. You know, like I never want to stay stagnant, you know, like I'll always want to be a better husband. And it might look different this year of what things I change or what things I add. Same thing with being a father. I always want to continue progressing and being the best father that I can be. I want to be a good leader for our household. I want to lead us in all aspects of life, spiritual life, physical life, mental, just being a good family unit.
Yeah.
Obviously physical will always be my goal. I think that's just my lifestyle. It's no longer just season. That's just who I am now. So continuously probably running, working out, doing races. And for races, we talked about it on the Spartan Pot episode. It's just continuously seeing like, what am I made of? Have I improved?
Yeah.
And you know, the great thing about races is like they're timed, right? And so you could literally see like, have I improved? Have I not improved? Am I going the right way? Am I going the wrong way?
Yeah.
What do I need to change in training? And it translates in every aspect of life, right?
Yeah.
You reflect and you see like, where can I make an adjustment? Where am I learning a lesson? And I think it's just continuous learning. I think if you always keep that like mind and spirit of just like, I want to continuously learn no matter what. I want to learn from new people. I want to learn from life. I want to learn from testing myself. Like I want to learn from all these things. I want to learn from God directly. I want to learn from the Bible. I think you just continuously are better every day. Like you just continuously grow and you learn all these lessons. Let's see. Yeah, I think that would be the general. How about you?
Same. I finding myself always like in this, like I want to be the best wife I can be, not use teaching as an excuse because I get so exhausted. I'm like, you deserve me at my best all times. For my kids, I think they're so much more aware now where they're asking, Mom, where are you going? Oh, it's Mommy's turn to put me to bed. They love like family time. Like I sit in the puzzle and Elijah's like, Mom, can I help you? Raya's like, can I help you? And like that means a lot. And I'm okay. They're at that stage where this is counting, like for real. Like it matters what we do and how we teach them. And this is where they remember everything. No, like Araya no longer will like forget these memories. They're not babies anymore. And so like that, I'm recognizing like this is it. And for me, I think, I don't know if it's a woman thing, me being a 3, but life is always like, what's the next thing? Like, what's the next thing, right? I was in middle school. Okay, when am I going to go to high school? When I'm in high school, I'm going to go to Biola. Oh, when am I going to get married? When am I going to have kids? I was always like not being able to be like completely content and always for the next thing. And I've been having to remind myself like this month of like, I'm living my dream. Like, this is it. Like, if I do this for the rest of my life, like if my life doesn't change, like I reached what I've been wanting to reach as a little girl. Like, I'm living my dream, being married, having my kids, having a teaching career. Like I would call myself successful. Not that I'm saying like I'm going to stay here and be stagnant and not have goals, but I have to constantly remind myself to take a deep breath and like, it's okay to not desire. Like it's okay to be so grateful in that moment. And so that's a goal of mine, to just be present, like realize like I don't have to hustle and think about like, okay, what's the next step of our lives? Like I have to keep moving forward, or, you know, I think that's something that I've struggled with, and something that I'm learning with age. Like my life is good. Like I need to enjoy it more. And that goes with, I think ministry. I was actually talking to this with my sister yesterday night, and I was saying, I don't know if it's our culture that glamorizes like hard sacrifice, hard service. I'm talking about not like the church ministry. That when we're young, we're like, oh, we can't wait to be leaders, or we can't wait to go all in. But again, at like what cost, right? And so that I'm called to serve 100%. I feel like I have the passion and the gifts for a reason. I'm meant to expand God's kingdom on earth. Like I'm meant to help others. Like I know I'm not gonna just keep it for myself. But really reminding myself, like, you're in a season where you have littles. And so what you can give is going to look different than when they're grown. And that's okay. Because part of me is like, oh my gosh, if I don't take the opportunity, I'm going to miss out. They're going to find someone better. You know, whatever it is. Like that FOMO feeling. And so I wish I had better examples of people around me who, like, paused, were present with their families, and then did it when they were older, because I feel like I hear about it in books. We've talked about it in some parenting podcasts. I see it on like podcasts of women, but I feel like in my life, that's, at least in the Hispanic culture, that's not really common. But that's what I want, like my goal. Like I want to serve because I want my kids to see serving is important. And yeah, there is some sacrifice to it, but like finding that balance, I feel like that's hard. And it's always like this tension of, so I want, one of the things that I was thinking about, like when my kids are older, and when they ask like, what do you remember about your mom? Or when they're telling people about me, like one of the things I want is like, I saw my mom wake up in the morning and she'd always pray. Like her prayer, I remember she would always say like, I prayed for this and it came to pass. Or like she would read the Bible. Like I saw her, she was with, I was with her. And like, yeah, her prayers came true. Like I want them to see that and say it. And I think they can say it right now. And I'm hoping that it just continues to amplify them, that they know mom will pray for me, and her prayers, like they have that confidence, because I had that confidence in my parents, and that's the best confidence you can have. Like, I'm gonna be okay. My parents are praying for me, So that's the woman I want to be in 2025.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot. Physical goals. I'm like, I was definitely more embarrassing to say, but I was more physical this past year than the year before. So I feel like there's progress. But again, it's not a consistent, how you said, like trek up. And that whole, I'm just like, I have to figure out what works for me, and that's going to be a journey, but we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think whole point of this is, I mean, we said we believe it's super important to write down your goals. And I'd say start with that of who you want to be. And I think this is how we started this podcast with the Atomic Habits of like, who do you want to be? And it only takes, what is it, like 1%? Like small changes. This is nothing that we did from one day to another of like, boom, this is the woman I am. This is the man that you are. It was like small individual changes. And before you know it, you'll look back at the end of the year and be like, whoa, I like who I am. And it wasn't like this drastic change.
Yeah.
It was like these little tiny habits. I highly recommend you guys, that first thing on your list should be read Atomic Habits because it really sets your mind to like have the foundation of like, okay, now that you're packing on these goals, like it's a good foot to stand on and to take those steps. But reach out to David, maybe if you want to have him walk you through your goals or like a plan. I'm working on it. I have huge plans for the Better Everyday podcast, but David always says like, hold your horses. I'm excited. And one of my prayers is for your potential, because I just know you have like amazing potential in ministry, whether that's in church, outside of church. And I'm so excited to see where the Better Everyday podcast goes in 2025. And we are so grateful for you guys because this has been a goal of ours for a while. And it happened in 2024. And now we're entering into 2025 with 39 episodes under our belt and way more to go.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like, oh, what kind of guest speakers and topics? And I'm excited for this fresh start. But it's so important to let's do our part. Let's be disciplined. Let's know that God can trust us, right? If we're faithful in a little bit, he's going to give us more. He is a good and loving Father. And he has you. He will do the rest. And you'll see at the end of the year. And don't beat yourself up if you haven't reached your goals. You read mine. I didn't reach a lot of those. But I'm better than I was last year. And it's just one step at a time.
Yep. And with this episode 39, with this topic, we are now closing this chapter, which is season 1, 2024.
Wow, season
1. On
1.
the Better Everyday podcast. This is our last episode of this season, the last episode of this year. And we just want to say we are very grateful for you guys.
Yes.
We're grateful for any and everybody that listens, even if it's for 5 minutes, for the whole episode, for the clips, for the comments. We are grateful for all of it. And again, we really just, our hearts, I believe, are just in that place of we want to be of help. We want to have these conversations. It is for us as well, because I love having conversations with you. But also like through these conversations for it to open up something else in your guys' hearts and your guys' minds. We want to be able to help anybody and everybody as much as we can. And it's been a great year in regards to the Better Everyday podcast. 39 episodes.
That's a lot of episodes.
We were pretty consistent. And I'm proud of us. I'm proud that 39 episodes. And I mean, at one point, I'm not going to lie, I was like, are we going to have all these topics? Like, are we going to run out of topics?
I know. I always think that. I'm like, God, give us something.
But there's always something to talk about. And there's always like fresh ideas. And we have some good ones lined up. We just got to, get them going. But we are going to take some time off, some time to rest, relax, recharge, enjoy our family, enjoy this holiday season. This episode will be coming out the week of, what is it, the 16th or something like that. And that will be the last episode. Today's the last episode. And so we want to wish you guys also a Merry Christmas.
Very Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year's. And we will be back mid-January, I would say, with our first episode of season 2 of the Better Everyday podcast. I'm already excited for it. We got some planning to do, some talking to do, some praying to do. But I know that we're going to have great episodes next year, and I'm very excited for it. I'm excited for any and all guests that we're going to have, any and all listeners, new and old. We hope that you guys can stay tuned. We probably will be posting stuff and, letting everybody know when we're coming back.
And the giveaway or no?
And we might do a giveaway, maybe.
Might be in the works.
But yeah, we're grateful. I'm grateful for you, babe. I'm grateful for this podcast. Grateful for all the people listening. Grateful to God. This has been a great year. Yeah. Great conversations, great topics, and we have received messages and people reaching out, letting us know that hey, this helped in this certain area, which is fulfilling, honestly, and that's really what part of this is about. Like at the end of the day, when we return back home with God, before we take that last breath and we look back at our life, is it going to be a life that we look back that's fulfilling, that was about truly loving people and helping people and doing everything possible to love and help people? Or was it selfish? And I think this is part of our ministry and our journey, to be able to have that fulfillment, allow God to use us in any capacity through this podcast. And for me, it's so fulfilling. And so I love you, babe.
I love you.
We love you guys, and we will see you next year. Bye.
Should we have like a streamer? Bye.